Room 13 presents. A shadowy figure danced across the worn tapestry of the Haddow house, concealed within the intricate patterns that mimicked a midnight forest. The heavy oak door creaked as it sealed the room from the rest of the world, carrying the scent of age-old mahogany and distant echoes of long-ago whispers. Each corner cloaked in shadows, the room seemed to inhale the dim light struggling through the narrow windows. Elaine Turner stood at the threshold of room 13, clutching the forgotten invitation she'd found in her grandmother's attic, the parchment yellowed and brittle as a dead leaf. "Come and rediscover home," it had said in ink nearly faded with time. The Haddow house, an ancestral behemoth, sat hunched like a slumbering beast at the edge of their town, gripping tales of madness and mystery just as tightly as the ebbing fog that surrounded it. Decades had passed since anyone dared cross its threshold, echoing tales of spectral warnings and rooms that breathed. Elaine, teetering on the precipice of adulthood and the burden of her family's unsettling history, felt an inexplicable pull to uncover the secrets entombed within its walls. An ominous silence wrapped around her, only interrupted by the soft thud of her footsteps on the threadbare carpet stretching down the dusty corridor. Shadows stretched ominously, flickering in the candlelight like sentient beings waiting to whisper their stories. Elaine's eyes roamed the walls where portraits of stern ancestors glared beneath age-darkened varnish. A shiver danced along her spine as she became painfully aware of their watchful gaze, penetrating and cold. It was as if the very walls murmured their own judgment, each groan and creak a syllable in an ancient, unknowable dialect. Breath shallow, she reached the door etched with the faint numeral 13, barely visible in the dimness, as if it might erase itself from memory at any moment. The metal knob felt strangely warm under her touch, a pulse thrumming just beneath its surface. As the door swung inward, she was greeted not by gloom, but by an unexpected warmth and golden light cascading across the room. An ornate chandelier gleamed with the brightness of 100 tiny suns, though no switch was visible to summon its glow. Below, a dining table stretched longer than logic insisted it could be, laden with a feast fit for a forgotten time. Roasts and fruits, breads and cheeses, all impossibly fresh and vibrant. Elaine's heart quickened, an internal metronome set too fast. Here was a mystery begging illumination, and yet instincts ancient as her family's bloodline whispered trepidation. Compelled forward, she reached for a jewel-toned apple, its skin gleaming like a promise against her palm. The first crisp bite startled the silence, releasing a sweetness that danced on her tongue, fleeting and unfamiliar. But as she chewed, she felt a presence brush past her, cold and foreboding. She turned sharply, her gaze catching movement. A portrait had shifted subtly, the eyes now seeming to follow her movements more intently. It was then she noticed the mirror, standing tall at the opposite end of the room, its surface rippling as though the glass were liquid. Curiosity eclipsed caution, and she found herself drawn, her reflection beckoning with a subtle allure. As she stepped closer, the room behind her twisted in the mirror's depths, not the warmth of golden light, but a cold gloom populated by figures draped in shadow. They stood around an empty table, their faces mere smudges in the half-light, and all were turned towards Elaine, their secrecy a tangible weight pressing on her chest. The air grew dense, each breath a laborious heave against invisible bonds. One shadow detached itself from the mirror's depth, a blurred amalgamation of memories and fear. It raised a hand, bony fingers reaching toward Elaine's heart. Panic gripped her, sharp and instinctual, and she twisted away as if waking from a deep trance. As she staggered, read back, the mirror calmed, once more reflecting the deceptive allure of the candlelit feast. Her heart thundered in her ears, and she backed away, desperate to flee, feeling the oppressive presence of the room tightening around her like a noose. But the door, her escape, had vanished, a seamless wall in its place. She spun in growing horror as walls began to close in, an illusion yet unnervingly real, both the warmth and the shadows encroaching to swallow her whole. Rediscover home, the invitation had promised. But rediscovery felt more like an unraveling, each strand of reality pulled taut until she feared it would snap. In an unexpected lurch of bravery or madness, Elaine turned once again toward the mirror, willing herself to face the specters of room 13. Her reflection stood unperturbed in the glass, face calm and impassive, yet the shadows beyond her own visage seemed to coalesce, taking form and substance. The largest among them drifted forward, a dark outline familiar in its formlessness, and spoke without sound. Its words reverberated in the marrow of her bones, a symphony of fear and sadness. "You have returned us." Understanding dawned like a painful sunrise. Her ancestors, those trapped echoes, had followed her into this accursed room, their unspoken grief a tether that linked the living to the lost. Room 13 was no mere phantom lone. It was a cradle, an oubliette, a heart aching with the weight of unremembered dreams. Elaine cried out, a visceral sound that rang against the pressing emptiness, her plea intertwining with the echoes still haunting the house. The spirits shuddered visibly, as if her voice alone could grant pardon to the restless. The mirror rippled again, settling into a new tableau, a vibrant world outside of the room's gloom. A garden, wild and untamed, where sunlight danced like grace notes between trees, heavy with memory. The shadows, sensing freedom, drew towards this vision with yearning. Yet the mirror offered its redemption only to those willing to unearth the key buried within marrow-deep mystery. Elaine knew her task as if etched into the roots of her soul, to unravel the tapestry, seam by delicate seam, granting peace to the wandering spirits of Haddow House. With resolve rigid as the timbers holding the aged walls, Elaine turned towards the corridor once more, her footsteps weaving a path from light to shadow and back again. The house sighed in response, understanding that its long-held secrets had begun to see the light, that its ghosts might finally rest. Room 13 held its breath, the chandeliers dimming to a gentle glow, a throbbing heart now calmed. The door, once hidden, revealed itself, promising escape, yet carrying a new weight. A promise unspoken but deeply felt that this house would no longer remain silent, its stories woven into the fabric of blood and time. Elaine stepped into the hallway, her skin tingling with the energy of the past, of tasks yet undone, but now illuminated. Each step carried her further from the shadows and towards the eventual dawn, back towards the world and the stories she must learn to tell. As the house settled into its familiar silence, its mysteries swirled anew, yet now less a threat and more a shared legend awaiting its final chapter. Room 13, with its living shadows and mirrored dreams, stood patient, knowing that those who dared its threshold might yet discover the truth of light and shadow intertwining, woven into the very essence of Haddow House.